So in this video, I want to talk about getting to the next level. Pretty much, I would think it's fair to say that every hockey player dreams of being great. They dream of being a great player. They dream of scoring a lot of goals, getting a ton of ice time, standing out. But the thing is that what you've been told to make this happen, which is the common advice of just work really hard, trust the process, everything will work out. I don't really think that is the right approach. I've tried that kind of general approach. I've seen tons of players try that approach, and I don't think it's the most effective way to give yourself the best chance of being successful as a hockey player. Now, what do I think the best approach is? I genuinely believe that building a unique hockey identity is what is going to allow you to find the next level of your game. And now what I mean by this when I say next level is that you can either move up to different lines within your team, or you can move up and earn your spot on a higher level team and work your way, whether it's you're going for NCAA or college, whether your goal is to play professional hockey. I believe that stuff all links together, and it all comes down to the fact that you have to find your unique personal brand, your own style that allows you to be able to separate yourself from other people. Because this is the problem I see, is that most people will say, okay, great, like just work really hard, trust the process, it's all going to work out. And that's great if the process happens to be the exact one that takes you to your potential. But here's the thing. The reason you feel so anxious, the reason you feel nervous all the time, the reason why you just feel like uneasy is, well, there could be other things going on. But if it's about hockey specifically, it's because like you just aren't sure if you're on the right path right now. You're just not sure. So that's the thing, is that it's even more annoying when you have that anxiety or nervousness and then you hear somebody say, oh, don't worry, it's all going to work out. It's the most annoying thing you can hear. And the reason it's so annoying is because they don't have actually any like risk. They don't have any skin in the game. When I say skin in the game, that's what I mean. It's like the risk of I've put time in, I've put energy in, I've put money in, I've put my reputation on the line. Like if people are saying, yeah, don't worry, it'll all work out, but they don't have anything on the line, then like it doesn't. It's well, number one, it's just frustrating. But number two, like there's no real reason to listen to those people because they don't really have a reason to try to be right besides maybe their own ego or pride. And I see this happen with a lot of like skills coaches, strength coaches, maybe mental coaches. There's just not as many mental coaches right now. But like there's this kind of pride that comes with trying to, you throw out this random advice, but if you don't have any any your own reputation, money, time, energy on the line, then there's not much to lose. And this is something I try to tell my guys is that like, yeah, I get it. Like it's, you want to trust somebody, but I say the same thing about me is like, I try my best and to provide that for my guys, but it is super, super difficult to not be biased. And especially it's hard when it's not me going out on the ice and making the mistake, like not making the mistakes, but going out on the ice and dealing with the consequences of whatever happens. So if it goes well, great, and I want to latch onto that. But if it goes bad, I will want to not latch onto that. That's like the bias I'm going to have in my head. And that's what the bias that all these coaches also have. And that's like the challenge you kind of face as an athlete is to kind of maneuver this and understand. And this may like kind of piss some people off, like coaches or trainers or whatever it is. But like besides the player, besides like the parents, if you, as a parent, if you're watching this, like, and you actually truly invest time, money, and energy to help your son or daughter, like there's not really too many other people that have that true like time invested, skin in the game to be part of the outcome. And even so, the player is the one who really has to deal with it. But then when you get to higher levels, you get to pro, you get to these higher levels, what you realize is that there's more incentive that comes out, but there's different incentive. And this is like a lot of game theory and stuff like that. But Again, we'll save that for future articles and videos, because that can turn into a tangent that can go way too far. But again, those people who tell you just relax, it's all going to work out, it pisses me off because I am here to tell you that it might not all work out if you continue on the same path that you're going on. You might mentally break. You might physically break. You might skill-wise not be good enough. Your IQ might not be there, whatever it is. But there needs to be a strategy in place and a system in place that you can actually trust that increases your chances of success massively. And that's what I want to lay out in this video. And that's also what I want to lay out in future videos and future blogs and all the stuff I put out in the future, is like how to set up strategies, systems to actually give yourself higher chances of success. Because hockey is a random sport, things are not guaranteed, but you can give yourself a better chance by giving yourself better tactics, strategies, and systems. So here's the thing. This is what I see most players do, and I would imagine you probably fit into this category. So here are the two main strategies that I see most like driven players follow. These are players who want to get better. So number one, if they think they have a good trainer and they have the money to afford them, then they basically go the personal trainer route, is what I call it. So you go to a skills trainer, you get a workout trainer, strength and conditioning coach, you shoot pucks, you stick handle at home, you don't see any results, you blame the coach, the trainer, and you say, oh, maybe it's my lack of work ethic, but you put the blame somewhere else, right? Instead of just saying, I just didn't do, well, not even just I didn't do it, I just didn't have the information. And it's not any deeper than that for a lot of people. But that's the thing, is like they do that, so you go down that path, and if it doesn't work out, then you say, well, then you usually end up going to path two. And also go back to the previous why 99.99% of people or hockey players fail to reach their potential. I talk a lot more detail about that kind of concept and about blaming and a bunch of other stuff, but you can dig back into that. But here's the thing, like if you start to question your trainer, and or you don't have the money to invest in trainers, or you're too fearful to invest in your trainers, and I know I was definitely the last one where like I wanted to just like put it on me, so I would be kind of more like the scavenger mentality, and that's what I call this, is like the internet scavenger route. And so I would go out, I would search for a bunch of stuff on YouTube, Instagram. There wasn't really TikTok a couple of years ago, but I would search for like scraps of info. And this might be what you're doing right now, might be why you're listening to this or watching this, right? Like you're looking for those scraps, and you're like, maybe I can piece this all together. And you work super hard at whatever you see, and you take the advice, you copy maybe your favorite player. That's typically what a lot of players will do. They'll go watch a bunch of content on like a McDavid or whatever, Draisaitl or Matthews, and they're like, I'm gonna be him. But then what happens is that you don't end up becoming that player. You just become like a cheap knockoff of that player, and then you don't improve as much as you want, because you probably picked a player that doesn't fit your exact kind of style and the identity that you would fit best with, and you don't see the results. So then you think it's because maybe you didn't work hard enough, or you just didn't search hard enough. So then you keep searching, and then you repeat the same process over and over again. And this is kind of the way that I see like the internet hockey world going, is there's this constant space of like you go to these personal trainers, you say they're not good enough, and then you go and you search around again, you maybe find someone else, you work with them, and then it ends up being this kind of same process. But the problem is I've went down both these paths. I've worked with personal trainers, and I would say that one is definitely the better one if you're going to pick one, because at least you're getting personal attention, which is important, because like general advice on YouTube, TikTok can be helpful, but it does lack like the personal context. It doesn't have personal coaching tailored to you. It doesn't have a well thought out training philosophy and a system that contains it all. But the problem is that if you go out there and you find a bunch of different information, or you work with a bunch of separate coaches, is it just becomes like fragmented information. It's information that's coming from all these angles. You're getting all these different opinions, and the problem is that doesn't create a cohesive, confident player on the ice. At least this is what I've found with my guys and what I've seen. is that this anxiety and frustration comes from there's no real like clarity on who am I, what makes me great, and like how can I continue this. So this is where the question has to become, okay, I got it. Now, what is it that I can kind of do from this? Right? Like think about that for a second. It's like, so you get this fragmented information. So what can you do building off of this? Because if you stick with this idea of just going and scavenging a bunch of information, throwing it all together and basically spending years building a system like I did, so you can go down that path and take the time, or you can kind of shortcut the process and learn from somebody who's already done it. That's why I recommend going and just asking people and being like, hey, like, what have you learned? And then if they say I have a program, just do the program. Like whatever area this is, it's so simple because it's either you are going to do that or you can ask someone else to help you. And if someone put in the work to make something good enough that it's worth value, then that's it. And that's why I give away so much for free, because I do really try to help. But there has to be a certain level where you make a commitment to yourself and actually show up and do the work, because that's where accountability comes in. Because a lot of the time you know what you need to do, but you need the accountability like added on. But again, topic for another video. But with this system where you go and you either take the personal training route or you do the internet scavenging route, it is a lot of times you're kind of relying on luck, especially when you start to do the scavenger route, because you don't necessarily know if the right information is going to come at the right time. That's what you're hoping for, but you don't know. So that's not really the ideal approach to follow, because you're relying on luck. So if you're not following a system and you're basically just hoping that things are going to work out, then you're relying on luck, right? Like actually think about it for a second. You're hoping that things are going to work out instead of having confidence that if I follow a system for long enough, eventually it will work out. Right? So I always encourage you to think about this stuff and really consider and be honest with yourself, because it's not impossible to do the scavenger thing and just go find a bunch of info, put it all together. You definitely have a way better chance if you have the personal trainers. The best bet is to have a development coach, like I said in the previous video and blog, or identity letter. But I'm not really a big luck guy. Again, it's not impossible it's possible to get lucky and stumble upon all the right things, but I'm more about put a system in place, keep leveling up forever, and eventually you get to where you want to go. Like that makes more sense to me. And maybe that makes sense to you. I don't know. If it doesn't, maybe I'm not the right person to listen to. But here's the thing. So here's the trap of being well-rounded. This is the kind of next step that people get mixed up with. So when a player isn't sure what to do after searching and not improving, then what's the next logical solution? Well, the next logical solution is if they basically say, if I get good at everything, then what's going to happen is I'm just going to be a good player because I don't really have any weak points. Which, this kind of makes sense, like you don't have weak points, you'll be fine. Well, there is a catch to this, which is if you become average at everything, you're not going to become elite at anything. And the problem is that now you're not unique, because there's a lot of players who are just average at pretty much everything. Now you can become the best at being average at everything, which is this very rare ability, but that's a very tough ability to really master, and you have to level up everything super, super high, because when you get to the next level, if you have nothing, no pillar skill that pulls you up and separates you from anyone, then you just eventually you're just going to blend in. And I've heard the Power Tech podcast, I've heard those guys talk about that concept, and I really thought that was a good point, was this idea that you're eventually going to hit a point where you blend in, and that's where you kind of stop. So how to not blend in is that you always have a skill that you elevate and you keep bringing up. And this is a topic we'll also dig into a lot deeper in the future, but you need to have something that can elevate you and bring you up. So here's the key is you want to be unique, and if you just blend in, you're not going to get to the next level. So most players will simply just go through and have a mediocre career. They'll never really scratch their potential. Like, they'll never even get close to how good they could be because they just did a bunch of random stuff. They just had random workout plans, random skill plans. Nothing was structured. They didn't have a system in place. And if that's the path you're on right now, just doing random stuff, scavenging for info, then I want you to consider what I'm going to break down now, like moving forward, which is I'm going to explain to you the problem that you are probably facing. And like, here are the two core issues. You lack a unique player identity. So average, you're just average at a bunch of things and you don't stand out. Or you try too hard to copy just one player and you end up just a crappy version of whatever player you want to be. That's probably where you're at. So, and not to discredit it, but I guess I can laugh at it because I was kind of in this position. And if the guys in the Next Level Academy know that was a huge thing for me, is I was like told by many coaches up until college that you're just like kind of good at everything, but you're not like really great at anything. So I don't really know what to do with you. And that became a problem because, again, you can be the best at being good at everything, but that takes so long and so much work. And you have to, at the end of the day, like, you may just never get there, but it is very possible to get great at a few skills and stack them together into what we're going to talk about, which is unique skill stack. But first place to start is the unique player identity. And the player identity is really all the abilities you have. So if you were to imagine, basically, I like to think of it as like a blob. Like, so imagine, like a circle. And that is like, this is all the skill that you have, right? All the abilities. It's all the tools you have in your toolbox when you play. Now, what happens is that as you improve on a skill, when you go to a skills trainer, I talk about, like, I'm gonna be breaking down how to hire like a team to help you, so how to build a development team. But what you're doing is you're like, okay, I'm going to expand this skill, and I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to expand this, and expand this, and you become this higher like a more skilled player. And to me, that's what I consider, like, that's your unique identity. It's like this unique stack of skills that you've built, and you just kind of stack them all together in this unique way that makes you unique. Like, nobody's like you. And the thing is that some things you're not going to work on. So some things are actually going to end up like not improving and they kind of atrophy. But the thing is that you want to continually be stacking new skills together. You want to shape it how you want. And it's kind of like a personality, because it's not the player your identity is not the player you say you are. Your actual true identity is the player that you are in a game when you just are flowing, when you're just free and you're in that amazing state where you're just playing your best. Like, that's the player that you actually are. But then you get limited and your identity gets like constrained by whether it's your mindset, your confidence, the role on the team you have may limit you. But ultimately, like, if you say you're a skilled forward, but you only make low skill plays and you hit all the time and that's all you do, then that's your current identity. And you may have an aspirational identity to be better, but that's really what you are right now. And it's important to just acknowledge that and be honest with yourself. And that's why, like, in the Next Level Academy and in the platinum coaching that I do, that's the key, is like, we focus on actually getting through your mental barriers first. Because at the end of the day, like, if you don't actually break down your mental barriers, they will constrain that growth, because you will develop all these skills, and you may be that player right now where you've developed all these skills, but it's not there. Like, it's just, like, you don't see it in the game. And the reason you don't see it in the game is because you literally have like mental blocks or constraints that like narrow in what you allow yourself to do or what your brain allows you to do, so you don't play well. So it's brutal to see this happen to players. So, like, that's the value of realizing, number one, like, break through your mental barriers, because it's just going to cap your skill. Or what you want to do is understand, like, you do need to do that if you have any mental barriers. But then the next piece is like, okay, so how do I build my unique skill stack? And here's how you do it. Number one is you say, okay, I want to be unique, and I know that there's no perfect, like, there's no, like, I'm just going to take this player and be this player. You want to think like, my identity is like a unique, like, kind of thumbprint, basically. but the blob concept makes a lot of sense to me. It makes sense to a lot of the guys I've worked with too. And so what you do is, instead of copying one person, you copy a whole bunch of people, but in the ways that fit you. So you look at a whole bunch of different players and you say, I'm going to take this tool from you because it fits with the style that I know I can play, and I'm going to take this tool from you and this tool from you. And this is what a good development coach will do, is help you to build all these tools out. They'll use video analysis, they'll use like videos from other people and say, you can learn from this and learn from this. But what you don't want to do is be like, you're going to just skate like McDavid, or you're just going to skate like this guy, because that doesn't make any sense if you don't have the body composite, like the different ratios and joint angles and all these different things. And it's not even really worth explaining, and I don't even really understand it to that depth. But what I do understand is that it doesn't need to be a part of your game. You don't need to work on trying to be an exact person and replicate everything they do. You want to steal from different people and learn, and then take from this skills coach and take from this skills coach. And I always tell all the guys I work with, man, just go and learn from other people too. Like, learn, search online, look for different info, watch different leagues, watch different players, and don't try to copy any one thing. Just the good artists or bad artists copy, or good artists copy, great artists steal. I think that's like I want to say that's a Picasso quote. I'm not sure, but ultimately, like, the idea is you're always trying to evolve your skill stack. And if you listen to Daryl Belfry talk about this, about Patrick Kane and all the guys that Daryl Belfry works with, like Tavares, Kane, Matthews, Crosby, like literally pretty much the whole top of the whole NHL. And the thing that I noticed with him is what he's always trying to do is he's always trying to evolve guys' games. They start off with, a certain skill set, and then when he starts working with them, he really looks and says, okay, what are the few things we can add each year, piece by piece, to develop you over like a 10, 15, 20-year span. And that's why I always think in terms of years and almost decades, but maybe like kind of 3-year chunks. And if you can be great at thinking in basically like years, not days, that's where you're going to find like massive success. But here's like the main challenges you're going to kind of encounter when you start to go through this process. Number one, you got to make sure you keep expanding your identity, and that's going to be hard. That's why I recommend having a development coach. You make sure you develop the right abilities for you, so you're not wasteful and you don't misuse your time, money, energy, right? Because if you misuse it, you have finite amounts of all those things, so you're just kind of throwing away that time. If not, you're actually like digging yourself a hole if you develop a skill that holds you back in some way, like a bad skating habit. Right, so that's why it's to give you a little bit, like, it's why it's important to be careful and not overdo it with like shinny hockey and stuff if you start developing bad habits. So you got to be careful with that, and then being able to adapt and being able to use different skills in different situations. And this is really like a hockey IQ and hockey sense, I believe, like really comes down to, like, this is what it really is it's your ability to know what skill, what decision, what technique, whatever it is, when to use it based on the things that are going on around you. And if you know how to anticipate what's going to happen and know which skill to pull out to give you the best chance of success, that is going to allow you to be more successful. Again, that's why you should develop your hockey IQ, work with somebody who can help you, and we will also go deeper on this in future videos. So don't worry, like, this stuff will be explained. I also have a free course, again, where I break down the whole hockey sense loop that I've built out. So the stuff is there. If you want to learn it, it's there. So now what you want to learn or take from this is what Daryl Belfry once said, and I mean, I think he said this probably many times, which is know your role, expand your identity. And I believe in this concept 100%. It was the reason I started Identity Shift Hockey, and it's the reason everything is set up the way it is because you must adapt and expand your identity. You must basically expand it or you will fail. Or in terms of like adaptation and evolution, it's like you either adapt or you die. It's the way that nature works. So why would a sport be much different? So now the question is, and obviously it's not life or death with hockey, but so the question becomes, what role And what is like a role, and why is it different from identity? So what I mean by role when I say this is that your role is the condensed version of what your team needs you to do, the skills it needs you to bring out. So it's like, we need you to be a shutdown defenseman. We need you to be a power forward, a hitter, an energy guy. All these things are like roles that you play, but it's not who you are truly as a player. And a true identity that you're always expanding is that blob. It's like, I can play a skilled forward, I can play a defensive forward, I can play a possession forward, I can play a high speed attack forward. Like, there's all these options because you can play these different roles. And now what you want to think of is, for example, imagine, because remember, the role is like a subset for most people. Some get to use all of their skill. Some players, like their coach says, go do it, just use everything. But a lot of players, they get told, okay, your role is to be a shutdown defenseman. So you play whatever it is, whatever minutes that requires. And suddenly, your top defenseman gets hurt. Now, your job becomes, you play that role for today. You got to be our top offensive defenseman. Now, if you had stuck with the role you previously were and kept training that way and never expanded on it, you would not have the capacity to then handle that next role. But what you want to be doing is always thinking, like, how can I prepare for the next level role, thus the next level mindset? Because if you keep preparing yourself for the next level role, you'll set yourself up for much, much, much more success, because you'll literally give yourself a chance to now expand into different areas. So the bigger your identity ends up becoming as you develop these skills. That's why it's a much more complex process than just, work on everything again. Just be good at everything, because then you get back into that trap of being good at everything. So what you want to think is like, okay, so what I want to do is you keep expanding the number of roles you can play, thus expanding your identity, and then when opportunities come, you will have what Conor McGregor said, which is, luck is just when opportunity meets skill. Because that's what's going to happen. You're going to get an opportunity because you've expanded your identity, you play a new role, you play well, and someone says, you got lucky, man. Well, I'll tell you what, everybody gets a chance at some point. If you have any solid ability on your team, what will happen is your coach will give you some opportunities at some point. It might just be a few. And if you can really, truly outperform that player that was ahead of you, you will get an opportunity. Like, you will get more opportunities, and you'll springboard off of them. Because you get an opportunity, you play more. Get an opportunity, play more. And you'll keep doing that over and over. And people will say, oh man, you just got lucky. Oh, no, you were just ready for when the opportunity hits. It's just like with McGregor, like when he knocked out Aldo, if you guys watch UFC, he was preparing for that same strike over and over, and he was saying it, even knew it was going to happen, and he was waiting for when that moment happened. And people would be like, oh, it was a lucky shot. But he had planned that exact shot over and over, and then suddenly everyone's like, well, not everybody. A lot of people say it was skill, but you'll also have lots of people say it was lucky when you do execute. So now, this is the key, is you want to prepare yourself so that luck finds you, instead of you just, get just generally like out of the pick of the draw of when you search for different information online, just happen to be successful. Instead, you think, I'm going to build exactly the player I'm going to be. You get very clear, and then you start to do that scavenging route, but you want to build a system. So whether you choose to work with someone like me, or whether I recommend working with someone like me in the sense of who can help you with development. But regardless of who you pick, what I highly, highly recommend is go and find somebody who can support you in developing your identity. The player that you not only are, like the role you've been given up to this point, but how you can expand that, develop yourself into a better player, and keep growing. Because as you expand, you're going to get lucky more often, and you get lucky more often, and suddenly people are just like, oh yeah, you're just good. And that's kind of what you're going to notice if you start to take this approach and keep expanding, is that people start to say, wow, you're actually just really like a really skilled player, a really talented player. And it's funny, and it's a feeling that, like, for hockey players, that's probably like the biggest pride you feel is when someone really says that to you. So ultimately, this is going to make you a more valuable player to your team if you can do this. Next week, we're going to actually dig like deeper into increasing your value as a player so that you can really dig into the approach of how you want to strategize and say, this is how I'm going to become truly the most valuable player on my team. And you just keep doing that. So we're going to break that down. I'm going to give you my kind of philosophy on that. So make sure you subscribe to YouTube because it'll be on here. It'll also be on CourseandSorrels.com. I really, truly hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you got a ton of value. It was worth your time. And if you have any other questions, just let me know. But again, if you want a shortcut to this, I want to give you like a little bit more and just break this down a bit more, is that I also have like a system that I put together for this. Like this is, obviously I'm going to have more stuff to give you guys. So I do have a paid program, and I spent like 8 years building this, and it's called the Next Level Hockey System. And the goal of it is to help you unlock your hockey potential online. So it's going to be a little bit of a plug. So stick with me here if you're interested. If not, feel free to skip away. But why did I create it? I created it to provide hockey players like you with the guidance you need to reach your hockey dreams. Like for real, as corny as that sounds, like that's the goal, is to be able to help you get to be the player you want to be. And this is not just like a system, and it's not just some kind of like program that like got thrown together. It's truly a roadmap to propel you to the next level of your game. And it's a long-term approach that you can use forever. That is the goal with this. I've put in so many years to building this, and it just keeps getting better. I keep working on it because I want to continue to find the next evolution of it, just like I think a development coach should help you with. So here's what we do. Number one, we define your unique player identity. So we do video analysis, we do online coaching, we do video online courses, and we uncover your strengths, your style of play, and we help you forge an identity that sets you apart from everybody. Then, step two, we forge your next level mindset. So we break down the mental game. Like Gretzky said, 90% of the game is mental, the other half is physical. Always makes me laugh. But true champions really do master their mindset. So that's the goal with this. We help you with your focus, your confidence, your hockey IQ, and it's all laid out in a solid mental foundation. It all lays a solid mental foundation for your hockey success. And step three, we lay out the perfect skill stack for you. So we help you figure out what are the skills you need to develop. And then we have skills programs within the program to help you do that, which also it all supports this system. And then we also, the second piece is we optimize your physical training. So we make sure that, like I said, like your skills is there, your lifting is there, so you have a good physical lifting system. We make sure that you train effectively, focus on the right areas, truly complement your hockey identity. And feel free to take this stuff and just make your own system out of it. So that's step four. Step five, we integrate your existing coaches. So we figure out how to bring your coaches together, whether you have a skills coach, strength and conditioning coach, yoga coach, nutritionist. We help you to take the information they're bringing you and tie it together into your unique player identity. Because ultimately, this is all the business of you. It's all working together to build you into that player. So that's what we help you do. And then step six, we help you connect the dots, which is basically what I just said. But again, we pull it together. We help you build an efficient system, daily plans, weekly accountability. We have group coaching, or I have one-on-one coaching with the Next Level Platinum program. It's a full-fledged development plan designed to elevate you to the next level. So if you want to join or you want to learn more, because we actually don't just allow anybody to sign up right now. Maybe we do now, like if you're watching this later on. But if you want to book a free call, want to stop guessing with everything you're doing, then come join, then come apply, and you want to book a free call. So what we're going to do for the free call, this is where it's super valuable. So if you stuck with this, you're going to see what I mean. We're going to look over your Elite Prospects page. So we'll have you send that in this form. We're going to analyze your game film. So we're going to look through a bunch of shifts and see where you're at, like skill-wise. We're going to then get on a call with you, see where you're at, see where you want to go, and then we'll see if we can help you actually get there and give you an honest answer with that, like if we really think we can. And it's mostly going to be me right now on these calls, probably only me right now. And if I think I can help you and I think you're the right fit, then I will offer you a spot in one of the programs we have. I really will tell you if it's a good fit, but ultimately the goal is like if you're watching all this stuff, if you just watch like a 30-minute video on how to get better as a hockey player, then you are the type of crazy hockey player that is meant for a program like this. You're the perfect person who I built this for. So it would be crazy for you not to just get on this call, and if you don't want to join, then don't join. Because like I will tell you if it's a good fit, but I will also be happy to just point you in the right direction, and then you can keep using the free stuff. So I hope you got something out of that, and I will see you guys soon.